The hate that begins with Jews never ends with Jews. That is what I want us to understand today. It was not Jews alone who suffered under Hitler. It was not Jews alone who suffered under Stalin. It isn't Jews alone who suffer under ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Islamic Jihad. We make a great mistake if we think anti-Semitism is a threat only to Jews. It is a threat first and foremost to Europe and to the freedoms it took centuries to achieve. Anti-Semitism is not about Jews. It is about anti-Semites. It is about people who cannot accept responsibility for their own failures and instead have to blame someone else. Historically, if you were a Christian at the time of the Crusades or a German after the First World War, and you saw that the world had not turned out as you thought it would, you blamed the Jews. That is what is happening today. And I cannot begin to say how dangerous it is, not just to Jews, but to everyone who values freedom, compassion, and humanity. The appearance of anti-Semitism in a culture is the first symptom of a disease, the early warning sign of collective breakdown. If Europe allows anti-Semitism to flourish, that will be the beginning of the end of Europe. Anti-Semitism means denying the right of Jews to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as everyone else. It takes different forms in different ages. In the Middle Ages, Jews were hated for their religion. In the 19th and early 20th century, they were hated because of their race. Today, they are hated because of their nation state, the State of Israel. It takes different forms, but it remains the same thing, the view that Jews have no right to exist as free and equal human beings. In every single country of Europe, without exception, Jews are fearful for their or their children's future. If this continues, Jews will continue to leave Europe until, barring the frail and the elderly, Europe will finally have become Judenreich. When bad things happen to a group, its members can ask one of two different questions. One, what did we do wrong? Or two, who did this to us? And the entire fate of the group will depend on which it chooses. If it asks, what did we do wrong? It has begun the self-criticism essential to a free society. If it asks, who did this to us? It has defined itself as a victim. It will then seek a scapegoat to blame for all its problems, and classically, this has been the Jews. Anti-Semitism is a form of cognitive failure, and it happens when groups feel that their world is spinning out of control. Anti-Semitism happens when the politics of hope gives way to the politics of fear, which quickly becomes the politics of hate. This then reduces complex problems to simplicities. It divides the world into black and white, seeing all the fault on one side and all the victimhood on the other. It singles out one group among 100 offenders for the blame. The argument is always the same. We are innocent, they are guilty. It follows that if we are to be free, then they, the Jews or the State of Israel, must be destroyed. That is how the great crimes begin. Jews were hated because they were different. They were the most conspicuous non-Christian minority in a Christian Europe. Today, they are the most conspicuous non-Muslim presence in an Islamic Middle East. Anti-Semitism has always been about the inability of a group to make space for difference. No group that adopts it will ever or can ever create a free society. The hate that begins with Jews never ends with Jews. Anti-Semitism is only secondarily about Jews. Primarily, it is about the failure of groups to accept responsibility for their own failures and to build their own future by their own endeavors. No society that has ever fostered anti-Semitism has ever sustained liberty or human rights or religious freedom. Every society driven by hate begins by seeking to destroy its enemies and ends by destroying itself.